Here's what we're talking about in our lineup today. Here on the Now, election security is top of mind with caucuses and primaries underway. We're checking out the most common voting machines and whether the one that you're using is the most secure. And it's a hidden danger in schools nationwide how decaying buildings could be putting students and staff in danger. And keep sharing on social media when you're not feeling well, how that information is being used to protect everyone from all kinds of illnesses.
Thank you, Chris. I'm Amanda Starantino, and today on the Now Indy, an independent living community for seniors in Anderson is upping rent prices, leaving its residents to pay up or move out. But now our Kelsey Anderson is learning new ownership has been welcomed by many residents who say before the change, they were living without basic necessities.
Some residents here going days without electricity, without hot water, and without heat. That was the reality for people before the new owners took over in July.
I'm paying $990 right here. Now, you told me I'm not going to pay $1,900? Oh, come on.
Months ago, we told you about residents here being upset about the rent going up when the new owners moved in. But now those who stuck around are grateful for the change.
The difference is over 100%.
Marita Hodel has lived here for 4 years, and she's excited about the renovations happening at Northfield's Senior Living Redefined.
It was starting to be kind of an eyesore.
The Brownsburg Fire Territory praising the new owners, saying before they noticed residents living in poor conditions.
Several of the units didn't have heat. Several of the units didn't have hot water. Several of the hallways didn't have any kind of heat in them at all either.
Since taking over, Core Redevelopment is updating the entire facility, from the hallways, the common areas, and even the units.
This is just the start. We hope to every day make things better.
The company did raise the rent, which not every resident could afford.
I don't have the number right off the top of my head, how many people actually did leave. We have had several.
Working for you, I compared the prices of other senior communities in the area that offer similar amenities like 3 meals a day, weekly housekeeping, and transportation to and from appointments, which are all offered to residents here at Northfields. And despite raising the rent, they are still under market value. And for those who stayed, the price bump is worth it.
They care about us and want us to know that they want us to be happy. This is our home.
Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, RTV6.
And RTV6 spoke to 3 former residents who had to move out after the rent increased. We learned each of them were paying totally different rent prices for the same exact amenities. One paying as little as $700 a month. That rent included housekeeping and 3 meals a day. Kyle.
Beautiful sunshine across central Indiana today, and that really helped out because we started off in the teens this morning. We crossed that first hurdle. We made it back above the freezing mark this afternoon. In fact, we sit at our high at 36, and these numbers are going to continue to warm as we head into the upcoming weekend. Right now, it's 35 for you in Greenwood, 32 degrees in Marion, so a little bit cooler for you. But now those winds are coming out of that southwest direction, so this is that warmer flow between about 10 and 15 miles per hour in some spots, and that's going to keep those temperatures in pretty comfortable territory. It's still going to be cold out there, but we're not going to see a real big drop off here as we go to 8 o'clock. We're still in the upper 20s there, and we'll be around 27 as we go to 10 o'clock this evening with clear skies and that light south to southwest wind. So temperatures tonight, instead of the single digits and teens, will be dropping down to 23 in Bloomington, 21 in the city, and even around Peru will be into the lower 20s. But we've got that warm up lined up really nicely here, coinciding with the weekend. We'll detail that. The dry time is limited, though. It looks like we are going to need those umbrellas pretty soon with more ups and downs in that temperature forecast.
We're getting a better idea of why major company data breaches like MGM Resorts just keep happening. And we're also learning that non-financial information that's leaked, it could be used in other crimes. Now, with MGM's case, it was the names, the birth dates, addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers that were exposed here. And certainly that is concerning in terms of privacy for you. But overall, it is considered fairly low risk when we talk about identity theft. Now, cybersecurity experts say that information, it can be used to leverage some other attacks, and you always hear the list of them: email phishing, cell phone SIM jacking, porting scams, and phone call-based imposter scams.
You get those unsolicited emails, the Nigerian prince that has millions of dollars he wants to give to you. Well, it's not going to be a Nigerian prince anymore. It's going to be somebody you know, and they maybe have a little bit more information about you that they can personally interact with you.
Now, security engineer John Bloomer suggests you should set up that two-factor authentication you always hear about with your email and security protection for your personal phone and computers. That does go for $40 a year through Check Point's Zone Alarm. Now, Bloomer pointed out in MGM's case and some other recent large company data breaches that have been cloud-based. There was a survey that Check Point did that found that 30% of companies that are moving data to a cloud thought that security was the cloud provider's responsibility. And he says that's not the case.
There's very distinct language in the contracts that state who's responsible for what parts of the security architecture, and some people simply aren't adopting it. So it's a new field of play that a lot of these companies are moving to, and they're maybe just not treating it the same way that they did with their own data centers.
Large company data breaches also happen when a smaller company is hired to manage data and might not have the proper protection resources. All right, let's start the Now News feed. Concerns of the coronavirus impacting volunteer training for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Now, sessions that were supposed to happen today, they've been delayed for 2 months. Nearly 80,000 volunteers are needed. February 29th, that is when the U.S. and the Taliban plan to sign a peace deal. The two sides have an agreement for what they're calling a week-long reduction in violence that's now in effect. And if that goes according to plan, the two sides will sign the deal. A community coming together in South Carolina today to remember a 6-year-old girl. Faye Marie Swetlick went missing last week, and she was later found dead. And police say her neighbor, who was also found dead, is tied to her death. All right, let's get back to our lineup here on the Now. Improving the response to everything from the flu to food poisoning. How what you're sharing on social media can help.
Only at Ashley Home Store. This is home.
This is the Now Indy on RTV6. Thanks to some kindness, these kids are starting things off on the right foot. Today, local Central Indiana children got something that is not just a necessity, but it can change your outlook. Samaritan's Feet International distributed new athletic shoes and socks to over 500 children in Indianapolis today. The nonprofit group says it provides shoes to children who need them as a way to help them advance their education and economic opportunities.
They really are the foundation to a healthy and happy lifestyle, and really help kids who are being judged by their footwear and their clothing, in a world that, is very competitive right now. So our goal is to level the playing field by providing the entire school with a new pair of shoes.
Today's shoe distributions are one of several Samaritan's Feet is hosting around the world this year as part of its A Million Shoes campaign. So far in 2020, the group has given out nearly 43,000 pairs of shoes across the globe.
Well, we all see it, and let's face it, we might think that some people on our social media might overdo it when it comes to posts about illnesses and ailments. Well, health leaders actually prefer you talk openly about it.
As much as it might be annoying when people complain, actually that data is actually providing real value to public health.
Boston's Children's Hospital is home to HealthMap. Started picking up on the coronavirus back in December. It's an artificial intelligence system constantly scanning and organizing information online about illnesses, everywhere from local news chat rooms to Twitter. Now, health professionals analyze the data and what's happening on the ground. Now, concerning information is fed to government agencies like the CDC, the World Health Organization, and doctors. Obviously, early detection is valuable, but the data is also useful in figuring out how viruses might spread and how people are responding.
The misinformation that's getting spread online, what are the rumors that are bubbling up? And that's also equally important because from a public health perspective, we're really trying to communicate science and sort of help the public really prepare. And so understanding where there might be misconceptions can help sort of public health agencies target messaging appropriately.
HealthMap also monitors illnesses we see more regularly, like the flu and food poisoning outbreaks. They've expanded beyond infectious diseases to areas like gun violence, the vaping epidemic, and opioid abuse. All right, let's get back to our lineup. There are concerns about everything from asbestos to mold in our schools.
It's a responsibility to educate children and to educate them in a safe and healthy environment. And that has been ignored over and over again.
What it's going to take to fix these health issues showing up across the country.
AndyMoore-Chevy.com.
44. That is how old America's average school building is, according to the newest data. Alicia Nieves found out decay is causing safety concerns.
One of the hidden dangers in schools across America may be the schools itself. Around the country, students and teachers are reporting failing infrastructure is affecting their health.
One of our teachers, a 26-year veteran, was diagnosed with mesothelioma.
Jerry Jordan is the president of the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers. It's a union suing the school district over the failure to maintain school buildings and failure to protect teachers and students from potentially cancer-causing asbestos. The district was informed of potentially dangerous conditions at several schools last year. Conditions like disturbed asbestos, growing mold, and rodent infestation.
It's a responsibility to educate children and to educate them in a safe and healthy environment. That has been ignored over and over again. When the budget season comes about in June, it's just ignored and pushed on the back burner another year.
My concern, I am. Have I had some testing done? Yes, I have.
Jennifer Ballard is an elementary school teacher at T.M. Pearson, Philadelphia. Late last year, students and teachers were moved out of the school building because of the discovery of asbestos in the building's basement.
That was the gym, and the kids would walk past that area all the time.
Ballard believes she, other teachers, and even students had illnesses that were caused by conditions at the school because since they relocated, there has been a noticeable difference.
One of the teachers even told me, like, I'm not coughing as much anymore. She goes, I didn't even realize that I had a cough until after we left.
T.M. Pierce is just one of about 50,000 K-12 public schools in America that have asbestos or mold or worse issues. It's estimated about $200 billion is needed to get these schools up to what's known as a good rating.
But this is another situation where in our country we have those who are least able to defend themselves are now being put against a threat that they can't even really fight because they can't see it, and it might not show up until years later.
The Philadelphia School District says the health and safety of students and staff remain top priorities, that it's spending $12 million to remediate asbestos issues in city schools, and is looking for substantially more long-term funding to make further needed repairs and improvements. A teacher like Ms. Ballard is hoping for that funding to come through.
Who's going to take care of us when we are sick? Where are our nurses and doctors and lawyers and things going to come from if you got kids that are even scared to go to school to even just learn the basics?
I'm Alicia Nieves.
For roller coaster lovers, it's one of the most popular places in the Midwest. And this year, Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio is celebrating its 150th anniversary. And the park has many special things planned. One of them is a giveaway of lifetime passes to 150 lucky people. The ticket includes unlimited admission to Cedar Point Shores waterfront, free parking, and more. Each winner will also get to choose 3 guests who will also receive a free ticket for life. Guests can enter for the tickets starting Monday. You can enter online or at Cedar Point. You can also play weekly online to win thousands of other prizes. The park also announced a new boat ride. The Snake River Expedition has riverboats designed to explore the winding Snake River.
Not too long, and all those parks are going to be opening up as we get some warmer temperatures. Today, yeah, it was cold, but at least we had some sunshine, and when we've got nice weather like this, good day to hit the road. And went and talked with the kids, the 6th graders at South Putnam today, and we talked about everything from the eclipse that's coming up in 2024 to severe weather. They had some great weather questions today. Appreciate Mr. Laney and his students for having me out there to talk about all things weather. Well, no severe weather in our forecast. 1, temperatures are too cold for that. 2 is this big H that we talked about with that class today, the high pressure. That brings us that sunshine. Now we're getting on the back side of that, so our winds are starting to turn out of a more southerly direction, and that's gradually going to warm up these numbers even more as we go into the weekend. Right now, 34 in Greencastle, it's 36 in Muncie, and we got 35 in Greenfield. Tonight, temperatures will settle back to around 20 degrees with those clear skies as we'll keep a light south wind going. And as we go into your Saturday, the sunshine is back, and I think it's going to be a little more on the breezy side here. Temperatures as a result are going to be warming through the 40s, close to 50 degrees by tomorrow afternoon. 51 on Sunday. Sunday, we will increase the clouds, but I think we're going to stay dry here throughout the day. That southwest wind about 5 to 15 miles per hour. And then TrueCast, as we get into Monday, that's when we're going to see more of that rain overspreading the area here. Fairly steady rain as we go throughout Monday and then into the first part of our Tuesday. Notice, though, it's going to be warm enough for rain. The wintry weather is going to be staying off into northern portions of Illinois. Illinois. Next few days of the forecast, there are the mild temperatures right on through Tuesday, even as we get rid of those rain showers. It's just beyond this forecast. Temperatures are going to take a little bit of a nosedive once again, with highs only back in the 30s. Chris?
Let's check the Now news feed. A viral video showing the impact of bullying has resulted in an outpouring of support for a young boy in Australia. 9-year-old Quaden Bales lives with dwarfism, and he's been bullied at school. But a GoFundMe to send him to Disneyland has raised more than $300,000. Members of the U.S. women's soccer team now looking for $66 million in damages. It's part of their lawsuit against the U.S. Soccer Federation. They claim the USSF discriminated against women, with pay being one of the biggest issues. The TSA has had an interesting couple of weeks, to say the least, when you hear these stories. Agents at an airport in Montana, they had a passenger try to sneak pepper spray onto a plane by hiding it in an inhaler. Meanwhile, agents in Florida had a passenger who said they didn't know that inert grenades weren't allowed on planes. Well, Airbnb is expanding its role in the fight against human trafficking. For a few years, Airbnb's been working with the nonprofit Polaris. They created training for staff to spot signs of exploitation. Now they're expanding that training to Airbnb hosts and guests.
We're going to be focusing on things like, instead of just knowing the signs, it's also knowing the story. So what are those contexts behind the signs?
Now, it's important to note here that not all human trafficking involves commercial sex. It can be any kind of forced labor. Polaris estimates that 25 million people are trafficked worldwide. Now, in recent weeks, the hospitality industry's faced lawsuits and accusations of not doing enough to combat the crime. Polaris says hotels need a different perspective compared to Airbnb.
Those traditional hospitality companies have a very different business model than the short-term rentals and then other things that we're seeing in the gig economy. So we can't use these same interventions for each one because there's no silver bullet. It depends on the type of trafficking most likely to utilize a certain business, and then you have to look at the business model itself.
Airbnb's new training is expected to start later this year. Now, if you or someone you know needs help, Polaris operates the National Human Trafficking Hotline. The number right here on your screen, 1-888-373-7888. With caucuses and primaries underway, the 2020 election is less than 9 months from now. We're going to check out the technology that will be counting votes. Maya Rodriguez looking at what creates a paper trail and what doesn't.
It's the foundation of American democracy, voting. But depending on where you are in America, your election experience could look very different from your neighboring state, or even just your neighbor.
It really does depend on where you are in the country.
Marion Schneider heads up Verified Voting, a nonprofit, nonpartisan group that advocates for better election security, in particular when it comes to the use of computers in it.
We use computers in every aspect of election administration in this country. We have also historically underfunded our elections and not put the money into them that we need in order to run a computerized operation.
So what might voters encounter on Election Day? There are a few possibilities. One, a paper ballot, where a voter uses a pen or pencil to mark their choices, and that paper is then scanned and counted by a computer. Two, a computerized device, where a voter presses a touch screen to mark an electronic ballot, which then prints out a paper version that is scanned and counted. And lastly, there are paperless electronic machines. It's a completely computerized ballot with no paper trail. That last one, Schneider says, raises big concerns because they are the most vulnerable to hacking.
First of all, they make it difficult to discover if something has gone wrong. And then even if you are able to discover it, you can't recover from it.
Can't recover because there is no paper trail to serve as a backup. It's a type of ballot currently used in all elections held in Louisiana, as well as some jurisdictions in nearly a dozen other states. While states continue to grapple with the cost of replacing vulnerable and aging voting machines, Schneider says voters still need to do their part.
There's only one surefire way to make sure your vote is not counted, and that's if you don't show up at the polls.
In Washington, I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
Maya, thank you. Next in our lineup here on the Now, professional clothes for work. They can be expensive, and it can be especially a struggle if you're interviewing for a new position and you just don't have the money to spend on outfits. We're going to show you where you can get those clothes for free and get help landing that job.